Hello everyone, welcome to Living Consciously. I'm Carol Carnes. If you were with us last week, I taught you to meditate. And I hope you've been practicing it because that really is the only way you can get the results that are promised with a spiritual practice such as meditation. You know, meditation comes to us, primarily from the Eastern mystical traditions. Hinduism and Buddhism in particular have always emphasized personal experience through silence, through what they call nirvana, through experiencing our own being without doing much. They emphasize spiritual experience in daily life through mindfulness, through watching our thoughts, through seeing the divine in nature everywhere present and in every pair of eyes that you greet. This is more of an Eastern mystical practice. Western religions have been more about knowledge and about learning scripture, even memorizing it, or attempting to live our life from those teachings in the hope that we will go to heaven or hell, hopefully heaven. But it's been primarily not about individual experience. In fact, some of the Western religions actually discourage it. You know, you have to go to a priest for confession, where if in ancient times when Jesus was on the planet, there was a group called the Gnostics, and they figured out that you did not need an intermediary to have a direct contact with the divine. And that's what meditation really is about. It's about going within to that place where there is a field of beingness that you can experience and realize, without even knowing you're realizing it, that that's who you are, that you're a part of that vast, infinite nature. So this New Thought spirituality that I like so much, that has changed my mind and that I teach, is kind of a blend of East and West. East meets West in a great combination. We have a strong intellectual component, which I required for myself. I needed something I could actually believe in, something I thought made sense, and something I could demonstrate, that I could actually prove to myself. But I also needed that mystical connection, and so it's a perfect combination for me. And we learn the principles that are running the universe in relation to the human experience, the principles of co-creation. How do things happen? Just like we learned the principles of electricity. You probably learned that in the 5th grade. And we learned that once we discovered electricity, we had to learn how to harness it, to use it safely. And look what we've done with it. I mean, just a myriad of things that run this planet because we discovered this invisible energy and we learned how to obey its laws to use it effectively. So like any principle, it doesn't know what we're doing with it. You know, there's no judgment and there's no warning if we do it incorrectly. You know, I remember when my son was a baby, he put a bobby pin in an outlet and a little shock. Well, he never did that again. But the electricity didn't say, hey, little man, you don't want to do that. Because principles are absolutely neutral and they work the same for everybody. Now, this leads to my topic today, which is 21st century prayer. I call it the evolution of prayer. Prayer is kind of an old-fashioned word that has a definite meaning. It connotes petitioning, asking for, in some cases bargaining and begging, but it is based on the belief that there's an outer power apart from us somewhere that hears these petitionings and either grants us our wishes or doesn't. But it is all based on the idea that the source of all life, or what we call God, is some kind of image and likeness that represents us. In other words, we made God in our image and likeness, and it's kind of understandable how people did that because Western religions, the Eastern didn't do this, but the Western religions did. And it has to do with making God more accessible. So we made God into a white man in the sky, which kind of was a problem for the rest of us, and still is, and has caused a lot of problems on the planet. But we attributed all the power to that outer being, which effectively disempowered us, you see. So when you really analyze this, you realize it's a metaphor. You know, Santa Claus is a metaphor. How could one being be everywhere all at once, all in one night, lavishly giving gifts to all the children of the world? It's a metaphor for how the universe is constantly, lavishly, and relentlessly pouring itself into human experience in human form. In other words, giving the gifts. I mentioned last week that the way the man Jesus talked about this was saying the kingdom is spread upon the earth, but you cannot see it because it's coming through you. It's not apart from you. It's already, the kingdom has been given and it exists in the field of mind. So how we use our mind to access the field is what I'm calling 21st century prayer. Or, there's a better name for it. Actually, it was coined by Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching in modern times. Ernest Holmes lived in the 20th century. He was born in 1887 and passed on in 1960. And he was a brilliant man. And he discovered the running truth between all the world's spiritual traditions and religions. And he didn't have a revelation. He figured it out. He deduced it, and he inquired into science, philosophy, psychology, and religion, and came up with this beautiful teaching that shows us our instant connection to the power that makes all things new and the creative process through the avenue of our own mind. He called it spiritual mind treatment. And to break it down, we're giving our mind a treatment of spiritual truth. Because if we're experiencing limitation of any kind, it's because the limitation is in our mind. The error is in our thinking. Because the universe has no limitation, it's boundless. This field of infinite potential that's everywhere present all the time, creating all the time, doesn't stop and start. It's constantly responding to what is called to do. That's one way to look at it. It's constantly responding to what it's called to do. And how do we call it is through our beliefs, through our thinking, and through how we use our mind. You know, to change your thinking is to change your life. So we're learning how to use our mind in a very specific way to bring about a desired result. We're not asking for anything. We're declaring something. So this, you know, when we change our image of God, it's not to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It is to say that God is not a man in the sky, but there is something responsive in this universe. And that's for sure. There is something that responds to our deepest beliefs, responds to our self-image, responds to who we think we are and what we have a right to expect out of life, what we think is possible. So we're living in this wonderful time where we're beginning to change our image of God, and it scares a lot of people because they're fighting for the metaphor. But if we just relax and realize that there's more to life than we ever thought, there's more to the universe than we ever knew, and that it's not only coming through personal experience of people who've been meditating for a long time and have discovered it within themselves, it's coming through science. Ernest Holmes said, "The day is coming when science and spirituality shall walk together." I think that day is now. It's a good thing. So we use our thinking mind to go beyond the experience of limitation that we're having. And there's a formula for this, what I call the evolution of prayer. We don't change God's mind, we change our mind. So the old-fashioned way of praying, if you really think about it, it was kind of like trying to get God to do something it might be reluctant to do. It was trying to convince God that you deserved something or that you needed immediate help, rather than realizing it was our own perception that's causing our experience of experience. And That's a new idea for a lot of people, but it's an ancient idea. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, this is what the ancient ones were teaching. I believe this is what Jesus was teaching. It's done unto you as you think, that as you believe it is done unto you. There's an automatic response from this vast infinite field of intelligence to our use of intelligence. So intelligence responds to intelligence, and love responds to love, and peace responds to peace. And what this means is this: when we are doing our spiritual mind treatment, we take the position that what we desire is already so. It's already so in the field of infinite potential. It's already so in the inner field of our life, the kingdom within. And what we're doing is realizing it is up to us to bring it forth, to bring it through us by means of us. And so we correct our own thinking about it. I'll give you some examples as we go along. I want to really teach you how to do this. So the formula begins with something called recognition. And that means we recognize what the power is in life. Maybe we don't have a name for it exactly. Maybe it's still something we sense. But a part of us knows this. I've talked to little children about this, and they go, oh yeah, I know. Things happen when you believe them. They just kind of know this until we talk them out of it and tell them they have to earn it or deserve it. No, what goes around comes around. What we hold ourselves to be is the way we act, and that's what we receive. It's a beautiful system. I can't think of a better way to run a universe, frankly, than to acknowledge what people deeply desire and to allow it to happen. That's what's going on in the creative process. So the recognition is the very first step of this new kind of, some people call it affirmative prayer. I don't really like that because it's not prayer. It's spiritual mind treatment. But we can call it that if we want. Recognition, what do we? We recognize that there's one something being everything. I'll just give you an example. If I were to do this right now, I would say there's one power, one life, one something being everything. It's everywhere present, all at once, all the time, all of it, right here, right now. That power and that presence has no opposition. It is not in conflict with anything. It is the only power there is. It has made the universe out of itself by becoming the universe and everything in it. That power is the source of my life. It is the source of love and joy and peace and prosperity and vitality. That power knows how to express by means of that which it makes out of itself. That's the first step. You see, there's many ways to say that. Why do we do that? To get our mind out of the problem. Because you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. Einstein said that one, and it's true. You cannot solve a problem by dwelling on the problem. The mind has to be elevated out of it and return to the starting point of all creation, which is what we just did. So we're going to take a little break and pause for our wonderful sponsors. And when we come back, I'm going to give you the rest of that formula. And you're going to know exactly how to do this for yourself. And believe me, it really works. So just wait a moment, come back soon.
Attention homeowners, apartment complexes and business parks and homeowners associations. Now is the best time to make your property beautiful again. Since 1967, Gonzalez Landscaping has offered beautiful professional landscaping services to all of southern New Mexico. Our team has been designing and installing landscapes for over 47 years. Where quality is an obsession, Gonzalez Landscaping is locally owned and operated. We are licensed commercial, residential specialists dedicated to providing reliable and quality service. We offer residential and commercial landscaping design, full lawn, tree and shrub care, with annuals and perennials, tree and palm trimming, spring and fall cleanups, mulching and more. Let us do the work at prices you can afford. We service all of Las Cruces. We are New Mexico's premier commercial landscaping and residential landscaping company. Visit us online at gonzalesnursery.com or call us for a free estimate. 575-382-7272.
Welcome to La Buena Vida Women's Club, located away from the crowds but close to home. Come in throughout the day for Jazzercise, the world's dance fitness leader for nearly 40 years. Treat yourself to a relaxing massage, or unwind in the lounge area or outside on the balcony with friends. La Buena Vida Women's Club, located and designed with women in mind. For information, call Diane at 650-9721.
Well, we're back. I said a lot in that first segment, so let me kind of break it down for you a little bit. There's something responsive in this universe. It plays no favorites. It is not capricious or whimsical. It operates through the principle of creation. It acts on our most energized ideas and beliefs. It is one with us. We are one with it as the bubble to the ocean and the ocean to the bubble. We are never separate from it. Our old images of this power and source were too small. They were made in our image and likeness, and we have reached the end of our ability to actually hold that image much longer as true for us. It simply isn't big enough. And so we've come to a place where we realize the wonderful thing that is responsive responds to our mind, our ideas, and that's where we do 21st century prayer, in our mind. We're not asking for, we're not petitioning, we're changing our mind. Because if there's a limitation in my life, there's a limitation in my thinking. If this weren't true, everybody would have the same experience. But we're all having individualized experience. We're creating our own life, as it were. I mean, the power that is creates it, but we are actually acting as the way in. So each one of us has to have an individual experience or creation would stop. So it drives the whole species forward. You know, somebody has a great idea, somebody else catches it, pretty soon we all believe it, and we change our reality. Well, that's how we do it individually too. So I just taught you the first step of this formula called spiritual mind treatment, giving our mind a treatment of spiritual truth in order to change our mind, in order to have a different experience. And that's the sequence, that's how it happens. So the first step is called recognition, where we recognize there is a power for good in the universe. It's available to everyone, and we use it when we think. It is boundless. It is not bound by precedent. It doesn't. Your desire doesn't ever have to have happened before for you to have it as your experience. It takes us at our word. You know, the ancients knew this, but they framed it in a metaphorical language, and unfortunately, most people got stuck in the metaphor, and they didn't get the deeper meaning. So first was the Word was made flesh. It's still happening. The Word is your consciousness, is your awareness, is what you believe is possible for you. Okay, first step, we recognize that the power is greater than us, and yet it is being us, that we're immersed in it. It saturates the universe, that there's something that makes everything out of itself by becoming the thing it makes. The second step follows that logically. This is a logical sequence of thought. So if there's one something being all, there's nothing else. There's no conflict with another power. There is no other power. There's only one power. It stands to reason. That power is being you. It is in you. I remember when I first took these classes in 1975. I came from a household where my parents did not believe in God. They weren't hardcore atheists. They just kind of ignored the whole thing. So we were given the freedom to kind of discover for ourselves what we thought might be true. And my sister and I used to visit when we were little Sunday school age. We'd visit with our friends. We went to the Presbyterians and the Methodists and the Catholic and the Christian. We went everywhere. None of it really rang true to me. And until I was in my 30s and I discovered this teaching and I went, whoa, that makes sense right there. That really rings true to me. Well, in one of my first classes, I was trying to put this all together. Well, I didn't believe God was a man in the sky, but I knew there was something responsive to me. I had felt it since I was a tiny child. And because I hadn't been brainwashed with religion, I was allowed to feel it. I knew there was a presence. I knew there was something. So one night in class, I had an aha. You know how you have those sudden insights? And I said, oh, I get it. God, in quotes, is being me. It has become me. I'm the visible evidence of an invisible awareness I am. That made sense to me. And it actually flies in the face of most everything we were taught. It's a shame, really. But we can correct it now because the heart knows. You know, when people come to our center and they hear this for the first time, invariably they say some version of, oh, I already knew that. I just didn't know I knew it. Or they'll say, oh yeah, that's right. It's just kind of just falls into place. We're not here to be victims. We're powerful beings. We're here to interact with this boundless responsiveness to create the life we desire. So first step is to recognize the power. Take your mind out of the problem. You cannot solve a problem by looking at the problem. You have to look at what you want instead. Or that's a good question. What would I like instead? Let's say you're having struggles with money. What would I like instead? I would like ease and flow of prosperity in my life. Now, why would I think of that unless it were true? It is true. Life does prosper itself by means of itself. Look at nature. It supplies itself with everything it needs to become what it was intended to be. Life supplies us with everything we need to become what we are intended to be, which is the visible evidence of an incredible intelligence coupled with infinite love, expressing in order to be seen and known. That's it. That's it. Isn't that wonderful? So the first step is to recognize the power. The second step is to unify with it. God is being me. I cannot be separate from it. And then if this is so, then it must be that my desire is already done in that field. That desire is a part of my makeup. If I attribute love to spirit or God or the power, and it's being me, then love resides in me. Power resides in me. Peace resides in me, joy and vitality. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, these things turn themselves into human experience. These are energies and qualities of being necessary to the full expression of being human. I've often thought that Jesus was teaching people how to be human, not how to be spiritual. We're already spiritual. And for a spiritual being to come into this field of time and space is a big challenge. Because in order to be here, we almost have to forget who we really are. And then, of course, the fun starts when we begin to slowly remember it. or go looking. You know, I was saying Sunday, there's a sense of urgency right now in a lot of people who feel the call to go deeper in their spiritual practice, deeper in their intelligence, deeper into science, deeper into everything that would liberate the human mind from superstition and dogma. And that's really where we are in the world right now, is all these wars and things. A lot of it is really about religion. A lot of it is about fighting for the old image. We want to stop that for ourselves and relax into the possibility that life is for us and never against us. So we recognize the spirit, we unify with it, and we turn away from the condition and state what it is we would love to see instead and declare it is so now. And how do you make a bold declaration? You put I am in front of it. So you start off by recognizing that spirit is the source of all prosperity. You are one with it. You can never be depleted of that. It's a part of your nature. I am prosperity in action. I have what I need before I know I need it. Life is completely for me and never against me. And this is the living truth. This you can prove for yourself. And if you want to know more about it, come to our center. We teach this in classes. We teach it on Sunday. It is a wonderful, liberating perception of life. And it is my great joy to continue to bring it to the world. I really think this could transform everything if people understood how powerful they really are, how nothing is out to get us. Life is for us always. All right, so next week, I'm going to talk about prosperity as a principle. If you're struggling with money, I'm going to talk about how to get through that and get on the other side of it and let's claim our divine inheritance. I want to thank our sponsors today so much for being a part of this program and make it possible. I'm going to start a class on the essays of Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the most quoted Americans in all of literature and brilliant, who was a great influence in this teaching. We are transcendentalists, as he was. That's on Wednesday night, starting next week on April 5th. Call me if you want to be a part of that. You can get on our website and make a donation, help send this girl to camp or keep her on TV. And meditation is on Tuesday nights at 6 at our office. You'll see the address in a moment. And come to us on Sunday morning at 10:30 in the town of Mesilla Community Center. Meet me in person. I'd love to meet you. So get on our website, mvcsl.org, and learn more about us. Until next week, it has been a great pleasure to bring these ideas to you. So you continue to meditate, to live consciously, and come back next week. We have more great ideas just for you. Namaste.